Number 8, umatayim, with a munach. So this is separated from what's come from before and moving forward into what's going to go afterwards. Following the specific initial inspirations, Re'u was still in close contact with his son. In 200 years, he was still helping or advising, as specified by the shape of the reading mark.
Is this a learner or no?
I think it's more a question of a strong master or a strong teacher than a slow learner.
I'm not talking about
he still feels that there is more that he has to give or impose.
Speaking of that, do you teach bar mitzvah lessons? Did you ever teach?
I have taught several times, but I have not in the last couple of years.
And how much did you charge when you or you probably did it for free? No, because I know someone. What was that? That's why I beat this thing on. I have to be fuel saving.
I never.
Like one mentioned, you never charge. I know someone's charging $80 an hour.
Yeah.
I'll tell you later. That sounds high. $80 an hour. Who has $80 an hour? You're basically.
Okay. Shall we move on?
Okay. It's all business.
Let's go.
Shana, year. With the stabilizing achta, the relationship between father and son were similar from one year to another, with no changes or exceptions, as illustrated by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So here, we're saying the stability that they're getting from the years comes from the close mutual relationship where we see that Re'u is the teacher and master, and Srug is the willing student and someone who's willing to stay at the teacher's side for 200 years, continuing to receive advice. So each year is a reaffirmation of that relationship.
Srug was screwed.
Vayoled, and he produced with a mecha, so this is lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly moving forward to what's going to go afterwards. Number 10, during the latter part of his life, Re'u attended to his personal problems, and he produced more children as conveyed by the directional shape of the reading mark. So the connection to what's come from before is him still attending to Srug, but what's mostly going forward from that is he's dealing with other issues and other children. Number 11, Banim, sons, with a tipcha. So again, this is repeated from sentence to sentence as we go through each of the generations, that the male offspring is a closing idea to the production of more children, so it always has the tipcha with a pause after it, and therefore there's a different significance to what the boys are getting from what the girls are getting because of that pause after the tipcha. So Banim, number 11, his other sons were cared for and educated like the first one, having the same rights and privileges as depicted by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So because of the way that he treated his relationship with his eldest son, in closing the phrase with the tipcha, we're saying all of the other sons were getting a similar type of teaching and indoctrination. Uvanot, and daughters, number 12, the sons and daughters were treated equally, although their education differed with respect to their future duties. So that difference is emphasized by the pause in between the tipcha and sof pasuk, and the similarity is that they're still getting the same education and indoctrination, which is the stabilizing factor. So we have both the pause and the stabilizing idea of sof pasuk expressed in this paragraph about how the daughters were treated different and yet given different responsibilities, and hence they're getting the same overall philosophy but different responsibilities within that philosophy. So as we read through the sentence, we're going to notice that the phrase Vayechi Re'u, at the very beginning, Re'u is going to stand by himself because he's going to be the influencer of the generation. Sheva Shanim, 7 years. That tipcha is going to separate out this concept of indoctrinating to the point of making someone difficult to escape from your opinion. So those 7 years are really going to stand alone. Umatayim Shana, the years in and of themselves being the cementing of this relationship. Vayoled Banim, with the tipcha that's going to pause to say that there is a difference between what the Banim get and Uvanot and what the girls get. Vayechi Re'u Acharei Holido et Srug Sheva Shanim Umatayim Shana Vayoled Banim Uvanot. And we're going to continue on. We're on page 144, sentence number 22. Vayechi. So you'll notice that we are going to use yet a different introduction. I don't think we've done this one yet. So this is a mercha, tipcha for Vayechi Srug. So before we've had Menach Revi'i and Zakef Katon, but this one we haven't had.
Yeah, but Yechiru is also Zakef Katon.
This is a mercha tipcha. Yechiru is Zakef Katon.
Yeah.
Some of the ones before, all the ones before that were Menach Revi'i, and now we've got mercha tipcha.
Where are we?
We are on page 144, verse 11 to 2. And when we introduce the child, the child as the head of the generation, we have had different note combinations to introduce that phrase. And this is the first time we're coming across this mercha tipcha.
See, even you say mercha tipcha as if it's one note. Like, that's the hardest one for me to get over.
That's because we're saying it as a combination here. Before we've had Menach Revi'i and we've had Zakef Katon. So I'm using it. I'm saying it that way because we are phrasing the words together, even though that's not the way that this Perush thinks about it. So mercha, lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly moving forward into what's gone on, and we would expect that connection to what's come from before. After our strong discussion of Srug's relationship with his father, Srug accommodated himself to his contemporary standards, and he lived accordingly, adapting himself to circumstances as indicated by the directional shape of the reading mark. So while he had that light connection to his father's very strong teaching and influence, he then moved along and developed his own style, Srug, with the tipcha. This is going to close the phrase and have a pause afterward. Number 2, Srug made some personal adjustments of minor importance in relation to the prevailing conditions, as shown by the closing shape of the reading mark. So we're connected to what's come from before, and he is going to have some of his own influence in that there's going to be the pause after his name, but mostly it's connected to what he's been influenced by his father from before. Shloshim, 30 with a munach, so this is a strong demarcation followed by something going forward. He had also approved the age of 30 for beginning mature family, as it was set by Shelach, as stressed by the shape of the reading mark. So here he's doing something different from what his father had done. He's setting a different age for starting a family. But going back to something that was before, nonetheless, because he is demarcating and separating himself out from his father's strong teaching and influence, we have the strong wall that comes with the Menach, followed by going forward, as this is something that he's going to try to set for ongoing generations. Shana, year, with the stabilizing etnafta. That age seemed to become accepted as a year of transition from parents' home to an independent life, as denoted by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So here the concept of having having children and moving out of your parents' house is related to this particular stage in life, this age in life, and you're hoping.
30, isn't that what in the States the parents took the 30-year-old to court to get him out of the house.
Yeah.
They sort of overstayed his welcome.
And
here it is. That's the time we're going to set as the age.
The structure from all these is when they say...
And it's going to go from there forward, and it's going to be nice and stable, right?
Yeah. So when
Failure to launch.
they say the person that he lived and then he had a kid. They say his age when he had his kid. Then it says how many years after his kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says banim and banot. So
And
banim and banot. It almost makes it. It's a weird. I just noticed that now. That
It's
not as
always,
if
we're always phrasing two sentences with each generation. One about how he dealt with the leader of the generation, the oldest born son, and one with how he dealt with his own life, first part of the sentence, and his further progeny.
So the first progeny were in those, obviously in those years. It almost makes it sound like he lived all those years and then he had, it's not a gap of right? Obviously.
It's not specified.
But can be, but Hebrew Stein, so he had a Srug at 32, and then he lived another 700 years, 270 years, and then he had, there wasn't that 270 year break between Srug and his other kid.
Okay, so.
Well,
right? Does anyone explain it that way?
I think we just took that from the last sentence. From 11:21, number 10. During the latter part of his life, so we're back one page, number 10, during the latter part of his life, Re'u attended to his personal problems, and he produced more children. So we're not necessarily saying that it's after that 200 Shana, after that 200 years, but it is, he's mentioning the latter part of his life.
It could be like that. No, because what does he mean by personal problem? Maybe if you have a real problem kid, you don't have kids. You're so, working with that kid.
We're saying the person's entire lifespan.
Right.
So he can't have the children
after he's dead. Right, that's what I'm saying.
So it had to be later,
in those
but
200
in an
years
unspecified time later, when we're speaking about and the rest.
But where did those personal problems come in? I've never seen that word before. Where do you
I'm sorry?
Did any of the other people have personal problems like that? Personal problems in our lingo today is like personal problems, Where do you get that from?
He dealing with his own issues, and then they had kids.
Oh, no pun intended. Issues also your children. Issue. But where did he get this personal problems thing from?
Hard to say. I'm not as adept in looking through midrash as I should be, but there's got to be either a midrashic source or a Zohar source for that. It's probably something related to the name.
Well, that's what I was trying to do with Sheldon. In the Soragim, on the balconies in Israel?
Right.
The Soragim. So I don't know if it's this spelling, but that would be sort of like a closed, that would fit in with what you're talking about, and that he had to concentrate on this one kid who was like a close fist, you know what I mean? This is a funny story. You want to shut up just for 1 second? It was